Hold on, let me turn it up. There we go. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Let me know in the chat as people are coming in. Let me know in the chat my audio's okay. Then we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to give people time to get in. In the meantime, and again, let me know in the chat if my audio's okay. And we're going to go ahead and get started here. We're just giving people time to get in. So if you're watching the recording of this, the reason why you're hearing music and me talking right now is because we're doing this live. Okay, so we're giving people time to get on. All right, so we're going to give it about 2 minutes, and then we'll be jumping in on the topic at hand. Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. In the meantime, while we're waiting, we're under 2 minutes. If you got any friends or family that live in the Atlanta area, make sure you send them this link, okay? Appreciate the thumbs up. That helps us to get the word out about the video, about the broadcast. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for tuning in to this broadcast. So glad that you guys can join us here. And I hope you've had a wonderful day. And like I said, again, if you are watching this and you're not watching the live version, and you're hearing all this music, it's because of the fact that this is being recorded live. No editing or anything like that. I just felt that it's too important for me right now just to have to go through that whole process. So again, thank you for joining us. So today we're going to continue our discussion and our our coverage on what's been going on down in Rockdale County in the metro Atlanta area. All right. And why if you live in the Atlanta metro area, you definitely want to listen in on this, okay? I'm not trying to scare anybody. This ain't about scaring you. It's about simply getting you up to speed on the importance of what has been unfolding for the last few weeks and why you really need to be paying attention to these details, some of the details that we're going to be presenting to you this evening, okay? All right, so again, big shout out to everybody that's in the chat that's here. And let's go ahead and jump in and talk about it. Okay, so we're going to bring people up to date, up to speed. For those who, maybe you're just now hearing about this. Maybe you don't live in the Atlanta area. Well, let me bring you up to speed. So for some of you, if you don't know, there's a company by the name of Bolab that's located in Rockdale County, Georgia, specifically in Conyers, Georgia, in a town called Conyers. Well, they had a major fire, okay, and fires happen all the time, right? Well, this fire is a lot different. This fire, Biolabs, is a chemical lab. They make chlorine, and there's some other things there that they were making as well. Well, you set chlorine on fire, the fallout from that is really not good at all. It can be very deadly, okay? And, so anyway, so that has been smoldering for a long time, and I think now they're just now getting it out, okay? But what's been happening is for weeks afterwards, you've had this huge plume that's been kind of floating around in that area, especially like if you're in a 1 or 2 mile radius, but even beyond that, in the Atlanta metro area. I've gotten reports from people who are up north in the northern part of the metro area in Cobb County in Kennesaw, who have been saying that they have been smelling some things and they have been feeling, a little bit sick or whatever. And then I got other people further north as you're going up to K-State or Kennesaw State University, they say that everything is fine. But what we're focused on are people who are closer in, specifically within the perimeter. Okay. That's where you're getting a lot of people who are complaining about the health fallouts. They've been noticing some things, breathing, maybe, waking up with headaches all of a sudden that's very abnormal. Okay. For you. All right. Headaches or, hard to breathe. Some people have been coughing up blood and things like that. These are things that you cannot and should not just brush to the side and think, oh, it's just nothing. No, it is something. Okay. And so you need to be paying very close attention to this. All right. So there's a person who's a environmental tester. All right. And we're going to hear a little bit from him in a little bit, who actually is independent. He's actually a whistleblower for the EPA. He's still currently working on the fallout that took place, I guess it's about a little over a year ago, up in Ohio at the, you remember the train that toppled over and it had all those chemicals in it and producing all those dioxins and stuff like that. Well, people are still feeling the fallout from that. And he's still, pressing the case for these individuals. And so in today's video, what we're going to hear from him. And you're also going to hear from people who lived in that East Palestine area. And they're going to tell you about some of the trickeries and stuff that, Northern Suffolk, that was the train company, and the city, state, or whatever, the games that they played on the residents and how they got over on these residents and how they tricked these residents. There's one account where one of the attorneys asked the mother to sign her child's signature on this piece of paper. It was like the thing is, the child is 5 years old. So she said that they said, we want you to hold his hand and have him sign this, whatever. And come to find out what they were trying to get her to sign is any future rights that she may have to sue this company and to also sue the state, to sue the EPA, that kind of thing. And you have the same thing that's happening right now as we speak down in Georgia. Okay. So it's going to be a little bit lengthy, the clips that I'm going to play. But if you really care about your health, you're going to want to listen to this. Okay. You're going to want to make sure you're hearing all the details of this. Okay. And so that's what we're going to hear today. There's a little bit of good news, and that we'll play that clip as well. And that is that the county commissioners, at least two of them, have agreed to file a federal lawsuit against biolabs, and it's not just any lawsuit. They want to get biolabs completely out of the community. So that's good. That's good news, because that's certainly a totally different tone than what their chairman was saying just a few days ago, last week. And I'll play you the clip as well in case you're not familiar with, if you didn't remember from the other videos we did. He had already turned over the entire operation back to biolabs. And then, of course, when we saw that and we about fell out of our chair, I was like, how do you this quickly turn this whole thing back over to them? And you still got the feds and all that. They got to come in and check everything. And so we knew there was some mess going on in there. And so to hear that the Board of Commissions, they decided, no, we're not satisfied of what the responses we've been getting from biolabs, and we're going to do something about it. So that's a bit of good news. But there's some other things that we need to be very concerned about. Okay. And like I said, again, do not take it lightly if you've been experiencing any kind of health ailments, especially as it pertains to your breathing, headaches, things like that. And if you live or work within the Atlanta metro area, I cannot stress this enough. You need to get this video out to as many people as possible. All right. It's very important. Just because they're not talking about it on national news, it doesn't make it any less important. Okay. Because this thing, as it continues to play out, if people don't start paying attention now, it's going to get worse, worse, and worse in the long run. Okay. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. Let me see if I can locate this video for you right quick again. Now, this is the county commissioner. He's the not the commissioner, chairman. Sorry. And this is the clip that I was talking about. Oz Nice. He got up and told the people this was a press conference that they did on the 17th. So that was last week. And he got up there and basically said, hey, listen, everything seemed like it's okay. We're going to turn this whole thing back over to the county, or rather to biolabs. Now, mind you, again, you still had a stay in order at that time when he was talking about this, meaning that they were mandating that people stay in their homes. All right. You're going to hear, I think I have some things I'm going to share with you where people are talking about paint. They're noticing paint in their cars have been peeling off. That's how much stuff is still in the air. Okay, this what I'm saying. This ain't no joke. But he's like, hey, I'm satisfied. Let's turn it back over to them. All right. So let me get this video up for you. And it's right here. And let's take a listen. I want you to hear out of his mouth. And then we're going to jump to a press conference that two of the other commissioners on the board, they came out and said something completely different. So let's start off with this video.
I'm Chairman Oz Nesbitt, the chairman and CEO of Rockdale County. This is the day that we've been waiting to get to. This is day 19, and we're at a point where I've been standing by for a call from our fire chief to give me the green light that all is clear, and we're ready to put Rockdale back to business. And when I say back to business, allowing our school system to come back into session, our local businesses to open back up. This has been a major impact on economic development. Rockdale County is resilient, and we're ready to get back to rocking and rolling. We want to say thank you to all of our public safety and health partners, because the first step in this process has been public safety, public safety, public safety. You've heard me say that multiple times. Our focus has been on keeping our community safe. So to the Sheriff's Office, the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office, the City of Conyers Police Department, the Rockdale County Fire and Rescue, our emergency management, and all of our state and federal partners, EPA, EPD, the Gwinnett Newton Rockdale Health Department, and all of those partners and entities who've been a part of making sure that we mitigate and navigate through this process. Our community has been held hostage for a number of days, a number of weeks. And we're ready to get back to some sense of normalcy. So as the chairman of Rockdale County, I'm certainly, on behalf of all of our citizens, residents, and business owners, we are glad to be at this point and to be able to turn this complete operation over to the hands of the corporate management and leadership of Biolab.
Nuts, completely nuts, completely nuts. Biolab is the company that poisoned this community. Well, thankfully, there's the other two commissioners. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but something happened, because two of the other commissioners of Rockdale County, they came out with something a little bit different. Let me get this video up here for you right quick here. So I'm trying to pull it up here. Okay, I'll just pull it up here. Okay, so here are the other two commissioners, and this is what they had to say. All right, and they just did this recently. So let's take a listen to what they are saying. And since that conference, that press conference, let's take a listen.
Commissioner Sherry Washington, ladies and gentlemen, for the past 3 weeks, Biolab has been one of the major focuses of media attention, not just in Rockdale County and the state of Georgia, but worldwide. But today is about the people. Today, the Rockdale County Board of Commissioners stands in protection of not just Rockdale County residents, but all people that have been affected by the negligence and malfeasance of Bolab. We, the Rockdale County Board of Commissioners, have engaged Napoli and Skolnick to file a federal lawsuit and first compensating the county for the nuisances that they have created, but also having them permanently shut down in Rockdale County. We can no longer stand by and allow a corporation to continuously affect our current and future physical health, our mental health, and our overall quality of life. Even our precious children's education has been affected by this company's malfeasance. Bolab has had at least 4 instances of negligence in the 20 years that it has operated in this community. At this point, their risk to our community far outweighs any benefit that we could possibly glean from their operation in this county. For 3 weeks, I have listened to the numerous physical, mental, and emotional tolls that this company's negligence has caused our residents, and we want them gone. And I will fight until my last breath to have them removed. Today, we stand for the people. We stand for environmental justice. We stand for the future. By filing this lawsuit, we will prove that no corporation is above the law and no profit is worth the price of our community's well-being. Thank you. Commissioner Williams.
I'm Commissioner Dorian Williams, Post 2, and I want to put a more personal spin on this. We live within the 2-mile radius and we're forced to evacuate, which necessitates, of course, an inconvenience, especially due to my daughter who lives with us who has respiratory issues and my husband who has heart issues and respiratory issues. If you could see the picture of that plume going over our house, you would understand the seriousness of this. Even our dog was affected and took some time for him to recover. This is not good for our community. It's not right. It's not good for our state or for the nation to have this kind of neglect by Bolab in our community. So I also say that we need to get them to move someplace else and not be here and putting our lives in danger.
Shane.
Good morning. My name's Shaya Sak. I'm a partner with Napoli Skolnick. Thank you for coming today. I stand before you today to address the recent catastrophic explosion that happened on September 29th at Bolab's facility here in Conyers. And I'm going to talk about the legal steps that we're taking on behalf of the county. While the details are being finalized, I can provide you with the following information. Our primary focus will be on Bolab and its parent company, Kick Consumer Products, and holding them accountable for any negligence or misconduct that we uncover. We'll be seeking comprehensive remediation of all the affected areas and pursuing fair compensation for damages to the county and its residents. We're committed to a thorough investigation of the incident, including its causes, the extent of the damage, and any long-term implications on the county's environment and the health of its residents. Our firm has extensive experience in complex litigation and environmental cases just like this, and has successfully represented other municipalities similar to Rockdale in Georgia and around the country. Our team is prepared to utilize all necessary legal tools, including injunctive relief, to address this urgent environmental concern. It's important to note that while we're prepared to litigate this matter fully, we also remain open to good faith negotiations with the company if that leads to a swift and just resolution, as long as the county's concerns are adequately addressed. As we move forward, we're going to work with county officials, environmental experts, health experts, and the affected community to build the case. Our goal is not only to address the immediate issue, but also to set a precedent that enhances corporate responsibility and accountability as it relates to our environment and our community. I certainly understand the gravity of the situation and the concern of the residents here. I participated in the public meeting last week and witnessed the frustration of the residents firsthand. We do plan, in conjunction with the county, on hosting a town hall in the coming weeks so we can again hear firsthand the concerns of the community and make sure they're addressed. But rest assured, we will pursue this matter with utmost diligence, professionalism, and care. Due to the sensitive nature of the potential litigation, I may not be able to answer all of your questions. However, we are committed to transparency. I'm happy to provide information later this week when we file the lawsuit and provide updates as appropriate through the process. Thank you for your attention, and we're here to answer any questions that you have.
The lawsuit has not been filed yet. It will be filed later this week.
Correct. It will be filed later this week.
And for the commissioners, what would you say to people? I know you guys said you heard them voice concern. What would you say to some of the folks who said, this is incidents like this that have happened in the past with this company?
I know you can't hear the question. Let me.
In the past, we've had full faith that Bolab would take the necessary precautions that they needed to continue operations, and at this point, we no longer feel that they are doing that.
Excuse me, I have a question for you. You spoke of your firm having experience in dealing with these kinds of situations. Could you be more specific? Or have you handled environmental, and so tell us what those were?
Sure. Our firm, we handle all sorts of complex litigation, complex meaning against large companies related to an affected area that's very large. And our firm is a lead in many national negotiations, national settlements. The PFAS litigation, if you've heard of that, which is affecting the water. The opioid litigation, our firm represents the county in that as well. But for close to 30 years or so, this has been our focus.
With your experience, what range does the settlement fall in? The millions, hundreds of millions?
I couldn't give you an answer. I couldn't give you an answer on that. I would play the lotto if I could answer that kind of question. But I promise that.
Sorry, y'all. I think that's pretty much it on that particular video there that I wanted to share with you on that. But yeah, as you can see, the ball is definitely rolling. Good for them, in that note that you do have some commissioners there. And isn't it quite interesting that those two commissioners that spoke totally different than what you heard the chairman say? The chairman, he just was like, hey, I'm happy with what they're doing, and we're going to turn all over the operations back over to the people, back over to biolabs. But these commissioners, at least they stood up and said, no, we're not happy at all. In fact, they did do a town hall not too long ago where Biolabs was invited to come, and Biolabs did not show up. Okay. Some other things that Biolabs has kind of sort of promised was that, because Biolabs has already been on the ground handing out little, people who need some type of compensation. They've already been doing that. But but something happened where they hit a limit and people can't get access to it anymore. And they even put up a website where they said, hey, listen, go to this website. If you can't get to us, go to the website. I've been trying the website for like a week now, and I still can't. It ain't loading. The website don't even work. So one of the things that we told people is that, listen, you, to the best of your ability, and we know things, needs are needs, but you should not take anything from this company. Now, in the last video we did, we read the article where the company said, hey, listen, we're not telling anybody to sign anything. But if you kept reading the article, it said that that this will have, more than likely will have an impact on any future payout. Okay, so you taking money from them now, even though you're not signing anything, you still got to keep in back of your mind that somehow, some way, that's going to be deducted from what you really should be getting paid. All right, so these are things you got to keep in mind here. All right, so there's two types of people that we're really talking to this evening. There's one type of person that we're talking to who are really genuinely concerned about their health and their future residency, not only in that county or near that company where the company is located, but just in the Atlanta metro area. So they're genuinely concerned about that. Unfortunately, you got the other group of people who see this as a quote unquote blessing in disguise. And I hate to put it that way, but that's, people are like that. They, we're in the holiday season and people see, hey, listen, I know I was coughing a little bit, but hey, this is an opportunity for me to get a little bag. This is an opportunity for me to get a little bit of money, not realizing that what they're giving you is nothing in compared to what is really owed to you, and also the justice aspect of it. And that's what you're going to hear from some of these people who are going through this now up in Ohio. Okay, that part you're going to really need to pay attention to. So again, what we talked about in the other videos, and I'll just mention it again, is that when you're breathing in that stuff, if you're already immunocompromised, if you're someone that has dealt with asthma, any kind of breathing issues, this is something that is going to make it worse, okay? Because you're dealing with chemicals, right? And just because you don't see the plume anymore, it does not mean that everything is disappeared and going away. No, what goes up comes down. All right. It gets into the ground. It gets into the water. It gets on top of your cars. It gets into your air filters. And we went through all those things and all the different steps that you should be doing in the meantime while this stuff gets figured out. But the one thing that we said that we really recommended, and we know it's not an easy recommendation, it's not something that's going to be convenient, is that if you live anywhere near like 1 to 2 miles or whatever from this place, you need to get up out of there. I mean, there's just no other way around that, because doesn't matter what they're telling you. The EPA has a long history of leaving a lot of information out. And what you're going to hear from these people up in East Palestine, they're going to tell you firsthand what they are experiencing now, and they're a year out. All right. So it's very important for you to make sure you take this extremely serious. One of the things that we have done on this platform here, let me just mention this as well. What's my interest in it? My interest is simply just wanting to see people, not being taken advantage of. That's number one. But on a more personal level for me, Atlanta, even though I wasn't born there, Atlanta was a place where I met my wife. We got married there. We had both of our children there. We've lived there for quite a bit of time. I mean, we've had friends there. We still got some there, and been a part of churches down there, all of that. So Atlanta has been an integral part of my life, and we no longer live there now. We're out in the West now. But this is something that is very near and dear to me, because again, I don't like seeing people taking advantage of it. It just makes me extremely angry when I see that. And what makes me probably even more angry is when I see people who just kind of accept it, and just kind of roll with it. It just something about that. It's just really heartbreaking to me, to see that. And so in this, so one of the things that we are doing here is that we have a company. We have something called SomberTree. SomberTree.com. That is our business where we sell herbs and things like that. So what I did was I got with my wife. I said, listen, let's figure out what are some herbs that are great for clearing out your lungs. for just, getting rid of all these toxins and stuff. And so there are plenty of herbs that you can get. And so what we did was we put something together, a tea. We've been already shipping those out, but the website again is sambatree.com. And what we did was we drastically reduced the price. Drastically. How drastically? Well, for everybody else, the prices for it's what we're calling it is the 11 herb respiratory rescue and detox tea. Now, the price down here is $15.99. All right. That's for everybody else. That's starting with, if you get the single pouch, the 2-pack, the 3-pack, and the 4-pack. Okay, so that's if you go with that. Okay, and we even have a discount. We even have a 25% discount for that. Make sure you use it. Okay, it says family care. All right, so if you're outside the Atlanta area and this ain't, you're not, that doesn't apply to you or whatever, you go in that door. All right, but for those of you who are in that area, we got something. It's the same product. But what we did was we reduced it even more, $7.99. That's the starting price. Okay. And so that's for people there. And so inside of it, it's got everything from mullein, burdock root, nettle, milk thistle, ginger, cherry bark, peppermint, astragalus, turmeric, dandelion, licorice. I'm not going to take the time and read through all of this, but you read it on your own time, and we give you the descriptions of what it does for each. It kind of has, if you're curious about the taste, it's kind of like a minty, pepperminty kind of taste. Is pretty good. But what it does is, and because I said I want to try it, because we're not going to just put something together and just start selling it. I wanted to try it for myself, which I did. And I'm going to tell you, about a half an hour, I was already coughing up mucus. Well, that's a good thing, because that's your body reacting to those herbs, and it's immediately getting rid of all those toxins out of your lungs. Now, I'm not, so that we're clear, we're not saying that do this instead of going to a doctor. If you are experiencing any kind of medical issues and all that, you still need to go to a doctor, okay? But this is just a natural way of getting rid of a lot of those things too. So just something to keep in mind. So again, the website is sambatree.com. Make sure you check it out, and and make sure you take advantage of those discounts. Okay. All right. So let me go to, let me also bring your attention to this. This is a Facebook page that was created by some locals that are down there. Okay. So if you're on Facebook, make sure you look for this channel. All right. Or this page. It's called Stand Against Biolab in Rockdale County, Georgia. All right. So you want to take a screenshot, and you want to go ahead and you want to subscribe to them. Okay. And I've been following them, and they've been posting a lot of great information on it. Again, these are just people who have been impacted by this. Folks, you need to be a part of these conversations. Okay. I can't stress it enough. You must be part of these conversations. Don't sit back and just assume that the decision makers are keeping your best interests at heart. They're not. Okay. You need to be talking with other locals. You need to find out, what are other people experiencing? And does it sound like something like you're doing, you're experiencing, and, that kind of thing. You need to be talking with one another. All right. Don't expect people, I don't care if they're in government or not, to make the interests that are going to be the most beneficial for you and your family. Okay. So this is just one way of reaching out and talking to other people who have been impacted by this. Okay. I'm just going to go through a couple of things that some people mentioned on this page here, and then we're going to get to the video that I want to play you. Like I said, it's about 35-minute clip that you're going to definitely want to hear this. Okay. Let me see. It was something on here that someone posted. Let's see. Give me just a moment here. Let me see here. Someone had mentioned about their car. Okay, let me see here. Oh, someone had mentioned, okay, I'll get to that one. But okay, here we go. Here's one. Someone mentioned, did anyone else notice a white ash type substance over on their yard this morning? And, because there's still things that are falling out. And so this is some pictures that someone posted. So, you got, and this is one of the things that we told people, that you need to get your car washed. If you haven't gotten your car washed, you need to go ahead, sense that fire, you need to get it done. All right. Someone asked the question, anyone experiencing issues with their car and the toxins that persist after changing their air and cabin filter? Someone mentioned here the clear coat. Now, this gives you an idea of just how strong this stuff is. The clear coat peeled off of their vehicle. I don't think you heard what I said. They said the clear coat peeled off of their vehicle. Someone else said that the catalytic converter and the O2 sensor on my car threw a code on the 30 after all this happened. That was someone else had mentioned that too. They said that they started getting sensor alerts in their cars because of these fumes. Someone else in here, I'm just reading some of the things that are on here and then we're going to get to the video. Is anyone else more sensitive to chemical fumes now? Since the fire, things that didn't bother me before now do. I get nauseous and fatigued when using cleaning products and while getting my nails done in the salon. Just curious, am I crazy or is this happening to others? And people are chiming in and saying, yeah, absolutely. They're starting to notice this. Another woman, she posted on here and she's she's the admin for this group. She has a horse that is having some breathing issues. Another person they mentioned on here, they said that I've had issues with my blood pressure since 2021 to 2022. After it was finally controlled by my own doing, along with visiting a nice cardiologist, everything was fine for a full year until the Conyers Biolab fire. Since October the 3rd, my blood pressure has elevated and I can't get it to go down. It's not making a difference on what I'm doing. It still stays up. Plus, I have to be careful with stress due to it only making it worse along with whatever else is triggering it. I've been trying to research the chemicals in the lab has any cardiovascular effects, but of course, my findings have been minimal. Someone else chimed in. They say, yes, I'm having issues. My blood pressure is going up. All right. I'm just going through some of the things that people have posted here. Okay. All right. So there's some plenty other things on here, too, that you can check out here. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch to a video that they did. And this was the administrator of this group. She actually did a Zoom call with the individuals who are still dealing with it up in East Palestine. I think that was a very good move for them to link up with them as well. And I want you to listen to what they're saying. Excuse me, this clip I'm about to play is about 35 minutes long. And I want you to please, I can't stress enough. You see, one of the things that I really struggle with, as someone that's over 50, is that, being in this YouTube space, I'm realizing and the adjustment I need to make as far as the things I present, people just want to get to the point. Let me double tap. And so everything now is seen long-winded if you go over 5 minutes. So I try to get to the point, but because you're in situations like this, there's so much information. I can't condense it down to 2 seconds. Okay. So all I can do is hope and believe that those that are really concerned about their health and their welfare, that you will stick around and you will listen to this. Okay. Because again, this is something that's going to linger for a very long time. All right. In your body. It doesn't just disappear and go away. Okay. This is something that's very important. In this clip, you're going to hear about the different trickeries that some of these same attorney groups, because some of these same attorney groups that ran the circles around the people up in East Palestine, well, guess what? They're in Atlanta right this second, and they're playing all kinds of little games with the people. So it's going to be very important for you to listen to what's being said here. The other day, they had they actually had a protest. It was a very peaceful protest they had in the city of Rockdale. Sorry, not in the city of Rockdale, in Conyers. And, you know, although there was numbers of people showed up, it wasn't as many as should have been there. And I think, but when I contrast the crowd that was at that protest with the amount of people who showed up when Biolabs was giving out handouts, there was way more people at the handout line for Biolabs. And this is something that I stress, and I can't stress this enough. I cannot stress this enough. You don't, in your right mind, go to the criminal for justice. Let me say that again. You never go to the criminal for any kind of fairness or justice. The only way you deal with a criminal is with a reputable lawyer. That's it. Because they're not going to give you any kind of justice. They may give you a little bag, but that's not enough. And unfortunately, there's going to be far too many people that's going to jump into this thing, see it as an opportunity to get a little bag, but 5 years later, going to turn up with cancer. Now, all of a sudden, you plead into your president for help. This goes far beyond Democrat, Republican. I don't give a rip what you vote for or who you vote for. This is about you, and it's about your health, all right? And it's about your life, ultimately, all right? So what I'm going to do is let me play this video, and because I want you to listen to it, okay? This is from and I'm not going to play the whole video, but I'm just going to play a lot of it. But if you want to hear the rest of it, maybe this will give you an incentive to sign up on that Facebook page so you can stay up to date on what the locals are saying, okay? So you can stay in the loop. Okay, so I'll be doing a little fast forward in a little bit, and then, you know, and then we're just going to let it play out. All right, so here we go.
In history. You know, he has to make side.
Okay, so just to give you, okay, hold on. Can y'all hear me? Okay, good. All right. So just so you see what's on the screen here, on the top left, this woman here, she's a resident of Conyers, in the Conyers area. These other two women that you see on here, they are up in East Palestine, okay, Ohio, and they're going to be sharing their experience. You're going to be hearing a lot initially from Jamie, and then later on you're going to see, I think his name is Scott. He's the EPA whistleblower. He's going to come in and he's going to do an info dump of all the tricks and stuff that he has seen in both situations, okay? So that's what you're going to see. So let's go ahead and let it roll.
Do you want me to begin?
Sure.
Yeah. So I actually have opted out of the lawsuit settlement proposed by Norfolk Southern and our attorneys. I guess it's been accepted now. And that was a personal choice. Like Madeline said, everybody has to make, you know, what choice is best for them. For me, a lot of my fight is not just about money. It's about justice. One of the first terms that I could not agree to in the settlement was that Norfolk Southern, there was no negligence on their part. They did not take responsibility for this accident. And for me, you know, this legal record is a record that people are going to look back on in history. You know, it's definitely going to get looked back on for precedents in other cases, probably yours included. So it wasn't just about East Palestine for me. The settlement was about setting that precedent and not giving us the justice that we deserve. The other thing I couldn't agree to right away, besides, you know, the low amount of money, was the fact that it took away our rights to sue the EPA, the local government, or the federal government for any of their wrongdoing. And I actually feel like I was more betrayed by my government, betrayed by my government than I was by Norfolk Southern, because I'm just honest. I'm put it to you in the terms I know. This is how I explain it. It's like your husband cheating on you. You know, this other woman, you know what she's in it for. She has no duty to you. You know, she never said that she loved you and she would, you know, always be there. And I kind of see that as Norfolk Southern. They're this big corporation that really owes no duty to me, but my government. They're the ones that are supposed to take care of me. So just the fact that they put in there that we couldn't sue, I didn't like. The other thing that was unattractive for me is I did take Norfolk Southern reimbursements. My house was within the 1 mile zone, and I also lived just feet from Sulphur Run, which is the most contaminated creek in town. And upon my assistance and throwing a redheaded fit, I actually got Norfolk Southern to come in and look at my basement and say that my house was contaminated in February of 2023. So we didn't have the money to stay in a hotel even for 2 or 3 nights, let alone an extended period of time that we had to be out of our home. So I did take those reimbursements as part of the settlement. They're offering people within the 1 mile zone, which are the most impacted residents, at least we think so, $70,000 per household. So for my household of 4, that's like $17,500 a piece. But let's subtract all of the reimbursements for the money that Norfolk Southern paid to stay in a hotel, and I will get $0. In my case, luckily I was only renting, so I was able to get a rental in another area. But for a lot of people, this means that they're going to be stuck in these contaminated homes with no money to get out. So I don't know how that's a fair, reasonable, or adequate settlement for people. I understand in other lawsuits it might be okay and customary to take that money out that we were already paid, but that money was for us to live in a hotel, to eat out 3 times a day, to travel a lot further than we would normally have to travel, and we had no choice on how to spend that money. It's not like they gave you $20,000 and said, here, go relocate. I'm a thrift shopper and cheap, so I would have rented an apartment, not paid for the Airbnbs, which, because there's so few in our rural area, all the Airbnbs actually jacked up their prices. So
A question.
Sorry, y'all. I just want to follow up and just make sure you guys are tracking with her. So again, this lady Jamie that's speaking, she's not in Congress, she's up in Ohio. Okay. And so what she's saying, what she just said is that, yeah, they got a little bag, but when you calculate what you have to, this is something you don't plan for this. So they had to find somewhere temporary to stay with that money. There's food, there's travel, there's all kinds of stuff. So that thing got burned up real quick. But see, in exchange, unfortunately, there were certain things you had to agree to. So like I said, again, it's not an easy, in her case, and she's explained it, it's, there's some give that unfortunately some people are going to have to make. What I'm stressing here is just be smart, make the best decision for your family, but also be looking at all of that paperwork, because again, they're going to give something, but they're not giving it because they love you or they're trying to mete out justice. They're not doing that. Okay. They already have calculated that, okay, well, we're going to give them just enough, but they still going to stay here. Let me also stress this as well. For some people who just, color is everything, but let me just stress this as well. Rockdale County, if you look at the numbers, is what, little over 60% of Rockdale County is made up of black folks. Okay, over 60%. So all the more reason why, as black people especially, we need to be in these conferences, in these conversations, and really be in tune with what's going on here. Okay, and link up with these people, like people here who have the knowledge and know-how, and at least trying to piece things together. You understand what I'm saying? So, because like I said, again, the whole Democrat, Republican, whatever, it don't even matter. Now it's about people's lives. So let's go ahead and get back to it.
A question with that. So you said you opted out. Was there an option given to you? Like, did you opt in originally and then pull out? Or like, how did that play out for you?
So there were actually 3 different options. The way they did this class action is they did it as a opt out, not an opt in. So when you get things in the mail about class actions and they're like, go to this website and sign up, or that's not the way it worked. The way it worked was everybody within a 20-mile radius was included in this website, and you actually had to opt out. So I opted out. That had to be done by July 1st. So you could opt in, you could opt out, and there was a third option, and that was opt in with objection. So you could opt in and hope to get the settlement terms changed. And I see why that was an option for a lot of people, because, you know, everyone knows our best chance of getting the money is as a group in a class action. You know, however, if you took that risk of opting in and objecting, if ultimately the settlement stayed the same, you were still bound by that agreement. This also started out as a property only case. We were told by the attorneys they would not take our personal injury claims. And somehow this, what do they call it, voluntary chemical exposure award, which was advertised at 10,000 and then 25,000, which is a whole nother story of what the attorneys did to us. But that was their attempt to get more people to sign up to sign away their rights. The really sad part are the people that said, well, I opted out, I didn't do anything. What they didn't realize is if you did not opt out by July 1st and you did not file a claim by, I think it was like August 22nd or whatever it was, then you gave up legal rights and didn't even know that you had given them up. Since it was a 20-mile radius, when they sent out the little, you know, things that you get in the mail, people thought it was junk mail. And it also came from a place called Kroll, Kroll, Administrative Services. And that was allegedly the unbiased third party that the lead counsel got to administer these claims. Same things that you're seeing with the assistance centers. There were lines around the claim centers. They actually opened up a second one. I still couldn't get an appointment before the opt-out date. We were also told that we would be able to speak at the hearing for the final settlement approval if you opted in with objection. You put in that letter whether or not you wanted to speak at this hearing, and no one was afforded the opportunity to speak at the final settlement hearing. You know, we found out that the attorneys they actually got a guy from Dr. Carson from the University of Cincinnati. They made real sure to say that they didn't pay for him. But he testified at a town hall that our lead attorneys had that there would be zero long-term health risk and zero cases of cancer from the derailment. And if you look him up on LinkedIn, he has worked for Dow Chemicals, Exxon, Chevron, and a couple other major polluters. So they flat out lied to us. That goes against what CDC, NASA, NIH, even the EPA says. And that was an attempt to get people to sign away their medical rights. They also hired an independent tester very early on, Stephen Petty, who came into town and tested properties and said we would be given the results if he tested your property. They buried all of his test results and instead had this, I don't care, I call him a fake toxicologist, you know, get on this town hall and present to the residents. So for all those different reasons, you know, I couldn't sign up. It was very apparent as soon as we walked in the courtroom that this federal judge already had her mind made up. In fact, after hearing things about, you know, the cover up of the independent tester, after hearing about the guy at the town hall that said no cancer, the judge didn't even address those. The other thing that was being argued in that court was also about attorney fees. This is really important to you guys. So right after the derailment, which I'm sure you guys are experiencing this, you get flooded with all these attorneys trying to get you to sign up for the lawsuit. So a lot of people signed up with attorneys at that point. And then what they did is the court forced this into a class action. So all the cases that were filed were combined and they had this lead counsel. So lead counsel, while I'm getting zero, would get $180 million off the top to pay for all their fees that were related to this class action settlement. So out of your maybe 70,000 you get, you still have to pay the contingency fees of the attorneys that you signed up with. There are a couple of those attorneys that said, you know what, we're not taking contingency fees, but some of the other attorneys had actually spent money before they wound this into a class action. And at the hearing, the judge, when I stood up, I was walking out the door. And as I was, I kind of said, this is all sham. These attorneys lied. And I finished walking out, and I get downstairs, and one of the reporters from News Nation said, "Did you hear what that judge said to you?" She yelled at her federal marshals and told them to put me on the pavement. And then afterwards told does anybody else in the court have something to say to her? So it just kind of wraps up the whole entire settlement. It wasn't about the people. Our lead plaintiffs didn't talk to residents. They lied about who they were. They were not representative of all the different pieces of the community. So yeah, that was my experience.
All right, so just to make sure that you're not missing important things that she was saying. One of the things she said was, there was important things that were being sent out, to the people in the community. Again, she is a someone who lives up in the East Palestine area, but it looked kind of like junk mail. So people were just throwing it out, because they thought, oh, this is junk mail, only to find out they shouldn't have thrown it out because it's it's stuff they should have kept. But these are the little games that these people play, to try to, because that way they can go back and say, hey, well, we sent it to you, you didn't read it, you know what I'm saying? And so one of my another piece of advice then that you can walk away from with this is, if you do live in the Conyers area, Rockdale County area, anything you get that has anything at all to do with biolabs, it has anything to do with at all about a class action, you need to get a separate box or something, and you need to just put it in it. I'm not telling you got to respond to it, but at least save it. You understand what I'm saying? And then maybe, later on when you get time, just go through it, and then you can determine whether or not if this is something that I should save, if it's important or not. But do not throw anything out that you get in the mail, that has anything with because you're going to get you're going to get flooded with a lot of stuff from different attorneys and different companies and all that stuff. Everybody's swooping down now because they don't see victims, they see dollar signs, okay? But you do need to save all of that stuff, right? So that was the one thing I wanted to highlight. That the other thing she mentioned too was how the federal court was already tied up, meaning that everybody got their bag. The attorneys, they got their fees. The judge, she was like, basically, okay, let's wrap this up, and people clearly didn't like that. And so she told the federal marshals, basically, you need to get up or out of here. And then she turned to everyone else and said, anybody else got anything to say? That kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? These people have been poisoned, and you talking to the people like that. So I want you to understand, you don't have any friends at all in this situation. I'm talking about on that, people who are coming to you and acting like they're going to, I'm going to get you through the legal stuff and all that stuff. You don't treat any of them like friends like that. You understand what I'm saying? You always got your hand on your side pocket. You understand what I'm saying? Ready. You understand what I'm saying? So anyway, let me get back and let's play more of it.
Could you, and I know, I'm asking you questions I've already talked to you about, but I want to, make sure that everybody else does. So and I know, Scott, you experienced this as well, Christina, but like, why do you think ultimately that the attorneys were not in your corner about this? Like that your own attorneys were not in your corner about it?
Well, I knew as soon as I reached out to one of the attorneys after the preliminary settlement was announced, I started saying, well, this is weird. Why are they settling before NTSB hearings? Why are they settling before, some of these researchers that are researching human health have even, got their research done? And this attorney who was for the plaintiffs, for me, said, I'm going to stop you right there. I am not going to listen to your conspiracy theories about Norfolk Southern's attorneys. They're working in the best interest of the people. Obviously, he didn't know people don't talk to me like that. So I told him, you stop right there. After the past year and a half I've had, I don't believe in conspiracy theories. Any attorney that's going to tell you that the opposing side's attorney is working for you, I knew we were screwed. They're getting 180 million and they walk away. They don't have to live here in this contamination. Their families are not going to go through the health effects that we're already seeing in our families and our communities. To me, they wanted to get their 180 million and dip out. I mean, that's clear. They obviously didn't want to do what was in the best interest of the people.
And it's notable that this, you know, how long was it from when they filed to? I mean, I know it just happened that, you know, everything was completed on that, but it's like what, a year?
It was April of this year, so it was a little over a year from beginning to end. And
So that's, sorry, go ahead.
you know, that was part of the thing, is they hadn't even collected evidence that residents had. In particular, Unity Council, like, we have collected more evidence, I know, than the attorneys ever did. You know, you piss off a mom, and we were digging and we were finding stuff. Christina can attest to it. You know, Christina has been down in the creeks. The creeks are still contaminated. Like, why would you even entertain a settlement when there's still contamination? People are still being exposed. The extent of the health risks are not known. The extent of the environmental risks are not known. It was rushed under the pretense that people needed their money now to get out.
Yeah, that to me I thought was really interesting, because I looked up Biolab the last time, you know, they settled here from the 2004 chemical fire, and it took 7 years for that litigation to complete. So it was really notable to me, and that was, you know, I think a smaller case than you guys had, because they only represented about 300 people from what I read, and I imagine that's significantly more that you guys, that, you know, that what they represented in East Palestine. But yeah, all said and done, it just seemed odd to me. It seems like it was very in and out. And of course, like, people want to see it. You know, you want to see it as soon as you can see it, but not at the expense of doing it right. And it sounds like that's exactly what they did. You know, they just wanted their payday and they wanted to get in and out.
And that's one of the things they said when they were kind of bullying residents to sign up, because people are like, you know, it was like a record number of people signed up. Well, because we were being told things like, you know, you're going to have $1 million in your pocket just to fight this on your own. You're not going to see this money for 20 years. Are you even still going to be alive in 20 years? You're not going to find an attorney to take your individual case. This is the best deal you're going to get. You know, when you talk to people about the settlement that are angry that it was appealed and they're not getting their money right now, not one person says that I opted in because this was one hell of a deal. You know, they opted in because they need out now. They opted in because they didn't think they were going to get anything else. You know, they opted in because they are, you know, 60 years old and they probably won't live long enough to see that money. But I didn't hear one person say I opted in because this was a really good deal.
And I'm sorry, and like Christina, Scott, you guys interject. You know, I'm asking all of you, but was there varying degrees in that settlement of who got what, or was it like split across the board? Or how are those decisions?
Madeline, if it's okay, I'm driving in Massachusetts. I just had to, the lab requested more ash and soot. I FedEx to them today from Conyers, so hence that's why I was delayed. I was making FedEx. So
Yeah.
I can't have my camera above, so that's why I'm talking, but
Sorry, y'all. It takes me a minute to switch over, but Scott, this person that you're hearing now, I'm just setting you up. His name is Scott Smith. He is the EPA whistleblower. You can't see him now, but you'll see his face pop up a little bit later. He's the EPA whistleblower that was basically, you know, doing work in East Palestine, and, you know, and he's getting ready to go and explain some things. And he's also now currently working down in Conyers. So just wanted to let you know who this voice is that you're hearing. What's going to happen as you're listening to him is, unfortunately, his signal's going to go out. It's going to get crappy, but then, you know, they're going to keep talking, and then he's going to get to a place where you'll see his face and then you'll hear him a lot clearer. Okay. So just letting you know how it's going to play out. And, but you definitely want to hear everything that this gentleman is about to start talking about. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and hit play.
what I'd like to do is, I'm great. I think it's great that the communities have connected. I want to give a kind of a brief overview. And the emails that I sent to you and the Conyers community members who I have emails, I suggest trying to put a package together for people to read, because that kind of lays the timeline out. And I've copied all the East Palestine residents. Every single East Palestine resident on the email I sent to you, I tested their property. But I want to talk about the class action attorneys. Stephen Petty is the expert for the plaintiff's attorneys. The unprecedented thing is he signed a sworn declaration and essentially came out as a whistleblower saying I was right, validating everything. Now, it may seem if you're in Conyers, why would these class action attorneys, and I want to be very clear, Jane Conway of Simmons, Hanley, Conroy, and Adam Gomez of Grant and Eisenhofer were key people in hiring a PR firm to smear people like me and residents that weren't going. So they're now down there talking the same game. But the unprecedented thing is that their own expert witness with my affidavit, I know you have those links, they're public. You may want to, that explains everything there is to know. But what you know specifically, Adam Gomez, you will see a timeline. Norfolk Southern subpoenaed me in my driveway with Davina Pajara. I'm not built like most people. It makes my day when someone and tries to right when I challenged them to come into Massachusetts and try to force me to comply because it was basically an unconstitutional subpoena. So we never heard from Norfolk Southern again. And about 45 days later, the plaintiff's class action attorneys started subpoenaing me and actually misrepresented what the court said. And you can ask everyone in East Palestine. If I don't know something, I say I don't know. I don't guess. What I am saying, if I tell you something, I have verified all this in the emails I've sent to you today. You can see, and Adam Gomez was on that call the other night saying people were asking about test results. And he was saying that the judge released, it's up to the judge. That's an absolute misstatement, deceptive lie, because attorneys that go in here, if you're signing up for a class, that you will be provided. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I think now. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, yeah. So if you sign up for the class, you see the video and the people's panel here to give people information for the community. Opting in, opting out. It's up to every family. And these class action attorneys changed their narrative for the first year until the settlement. Why would they be behaving this way, everyone? They have 180 million reasons why they're behaving this way. It's a great return for these class action attorneys to collect this quick money at the expense of the East Palestine residents. Now, maybe there are some people that opted in that are probably happy with the 5, 10, 15, 70,000 they're going to get. And that's their choice. But should have full information. The point is, these same attorneys telling you that it's up to the judge, that's just not a true statement. And for those of you that sign up for class action attorneys and want any input, I'm happy to do it with my legal team. You need to put a clause in there that if you sign up for the class action and those attorneys don't make all their expert reports available, your testing reports available, that they essentially owe you $1 million in liquidated damages. Because these class action attorneys make all these promises to get you to sign up. And then the narrative changes. And the information I emailed.
Oh, we're losing you again, Scott.
Let me get it. I'm going to call back in now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes. We can hear you. Oh, okay. Well, there's somebody asked a question for him. I'll wait for him to pop on. But to the two of you, a lot of people or several people asked why you said voluntary exposure was how it was categorized. Like, and that's like an odd way of saying like who voluntarily exposes themselves to chemicals. But when you're speaking earlier, Jamie, you referenced that it was categorized as voluntary exposure. Could you expand on
I'm sorry,
that?
I probably just misspoke. It's just chemical exposure. They're saying that they're basically giving you this money since you've been exposed to chemicals. And the way they explained it was, well, you can use the money to put back in case you get sick. Which didn't make sense because you just told us in a town hall that we weren't going to get sick and there was zero risk. But $10,000
Right.
when you look at medical bills, how far do you think 10,000, even $25,000 would go towards chemo treatments? I feel like the very, very least we deserve is medical insurance, and we still have not gotten Biden to declare a federal disaster declaration to get health insurance. Our plaintiffs' attorneys didn't get it for us.
Okay. And I want to follow up on, what Scott said about, can we get something added to the clauses if we choose to be represented by an attorney? And I don't know if that's feasible or not. But it's definitely something to dig into, I think. And I think a huge takeaway was what you said about, like, pay attention to your mail, everybody, because I'm the queen of that. Like, I see stuff and I'm like, oh, junk, I'm not going to open that, knowing that there was a lot that kind of got slid in there through the mail that was pertinent information for you guys, I think is hugely helpful.
And I think one other thing that was important that I did was I actually pulled up the settlement agreement and read through it. I have, a background in law. It might have been a little easier for me to do, but enough of it is in plain language that you can understand it. So don't depend on anyone else to give you information. And that's not just in the lawsuit, even in this whole disaster, because, what they do is they pull out what they want you to see from those settlement terms. They slap it on a flyer, they send it out, and most people are just going to read that flyer and be like, oh, that's not bad. But they don't read the fine print. Well, not even fine print. They don't read the whole settlement to see that it was a cherry picked piece of the settlement that was put out. If that makes sense.
So Madeline, if I'm back,
Oh,
I've got to, and I want the community to be able to talk more. If I could just have 3 to 4 minutes, and then I'm going to go ahead and go because I've got a 5 a.m. departure in the morning. But there'll be a
yeah,
lot more.
absolutely.
But what's the last thing you could clearly hear me say?
Great question. If anybody can reference this very specifically, what the last thing you said was, but I mean, you were talking about obviously being, looking at that, $180 million worth of reasons why they were rushing through the settlement, pieces on that. But I honestly, we've segued in my brain
Well,
as a seed
let me
today,
get back.
so I don't
So,
need
again, it's not my place to say opt in, opt out, but I'm here to support the community like in East Palestine with testing and information. So when we know what we heard the other night, and I think you heard me say, I don't guess. And when I say I know something, I verify it. You can see all the emails. And I think we may need another call with residents and try to disseminate the emails. But you got Adam Gomez from Grant and Eisenhower and Jane Conroy from Simmons Hanley Conroy talking the same game they did in East Palestine. But Conyers can now intervene with the court of public opinion. The judges, it doesn't matter if it's Obama, Clinton, Trump, Bush, the system is corrupted and the judges favor the class action attorneys. However, if the community comes together in Conyers right out of the gate, in the court of public opinion, that's how you keep the judge honest. Because let there be no doubt, the judge will always side with the attorneys. That's the way the system works, and it needs to change. And what Adam Gomez said the other night when the question about testing results are up to the judge, that's an absolute lie. Attorneys in this environment, the attorneys that have a moral and ethical obligation to, if they're paying for, and if these class action attorneys want you to sign up and they will not pay for the testing on your property, you might want to rethink signing with them. And my suggestion to help, and I'll defer to Christina and Jamie, is that you can, when these class action attorneys put an agreement in front of you, you can modify that agreement and say that if you do not provide me with the expert reports and all testing, that you will pay me $1 million in liquidated damages. You can put that in there and demand that. Then you're going to find out if that attorney really, because an attorney that has your best interest at heart is going to provide you with testing data and help you understand why your family is sick. And also what happened in this case, they came after me and anybody else But what's unprecedented, as you already know, and we need to get the word out, is that Stephen Petty issued a sworn declaration within 48 hours of the Conyers incident, validating me. That was big news. We've done joint interviews, and I've put those links out there, and I'll continue to repost them. This is, and these attorneys, what the strategy is at a high level for a lot of these class action attorneys, they will say and promise you the world. Now, the attorneys in interviews, Stephen Petty in the interviews, up until the settlement was announced in April, were all saying the same thing I was. And they had promised the results that they never released. Then all of a sudden, they started talking like the EPA. No health effects, no long-term consequences. They have 180 million reasons why. And when they talk about an unprecedented settlement, what is unprecedented is for years, they got an incredible return on their investment at the expense of the East Palestine community. And if you're in East Palestine like Conyers, it's up to you. You might have to take $5,000 to settle. That's your decision, and you're right. We're just here to try to get all the information out. But Conyers has an incredible opportunity. Those judges will start listening. And what's going to happen in the next few weeks, the judge picks the class counsel. And you can actually influence that in Conyers by banding together and emailing the judge directly and on what happened in East Palestine, because how the system works, these same law firms appear and then they get appointed class counsel, and they create the perception that they are the court, but they're really not the court. And you'll see me in the email I sent today, Madeline. I don't know if you, Adam Gomez, the very same attorney that was making these statements the other night, is the one that stepped in and tried to harass me. And he was not representing what the court was really saying. And you'll see my responses. So I think, and you're welcome on the emails I sent today. It's all public information because I've disclosed it. So I think with that being said, I mean, that's really, I'm here to offer and support. I don't want to get into all the details, but when you have the plaintiff's expert come out and support a guy like me, where Simmons, Hanley, Conroy, and Grant Eisenhower, Adam Gomez, and Jane Conroy hired a PR firm. By the way, the same PR firm, Rebuttal PR with Stephanie Wolf, that led that Zoom call the other night. Same PR firm. So let that sink in. So I know I just threw a lot out. Does anybody have any specific questions for me? I'm sure I forgot things that Christina and Jamie will supplement. I'll stay on to take some questions if anybody has anything for me.
Yeah, one person who I think is from East Palestine has referenced that she had a particular experience and that they threw out dismissed proof. Her name's Chrissy Hilton. You guys know who that is? And Scott, she said, tell them what happened.
Yeah, I think Chrissy Hilton's someone you're going to want to have on at some point. The email I sent today has the Chrissy Hilton email exchange. So Chrissy Hilton reached out to me. I responded to the class action attorney. This is in May after the settlement. They were saying no health effects. They looked at the EPA data. And they never referenced the Stephen Petty data. Meanwhile, they made all these false accusations and smears against me and against anybody else telling the truth. So Chrissy Hilton's email exchange is key. You need to get that to all the interested residents. And again, the email I sent today about the Government Accountability Project People's Panel, Part 1 and Part 2, those PDFs, you should get those out to everyone in Conyers, because you'll be able to hit on links and see the plaintiff's class action attorney saying the same thing as me. And then everything got turned upside down when the settlement got announced. And in there is an email exchange with Chrissy Hilton, who's one of the most contaminated properties, with her own attorneys telling her after the settlement, nothing to see here, you're fine.
Okay. Okay. Everybody, anybody watching, Scott cannot be on much longer. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask that now.
Okay, so let me just break in a little bit. So that was Scott Smith. Scott Smith, again, he is an EPA whistleblower. He's been on the ground in East Palestine. And as you just heard him saying, is that you still got people, or it was Jamie, the lady on top there, saying that these attorneys are already rushing towards, they were already rushing towards a class action settlement, while the results didn't even come in yet as far as the contamination level. So any attorneys and stuff that you're hearing from now, that's what their end game is to quickly get their bag. They want to quickly get their money. They're not thinking about you. All right? They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about quickly getting their money, getting you to sign something so that you don't have any kind of recourse. If something, comes up and next thing you know, you got a cancer or you got some kind of disease, you don't have any recourse because you signed it all away just for $10,000 or $20,000 or whatever it is that they're going to be handing out to people. You understand? So he's just, as you're hearing him talking, he's about wrapping it up here. These different games that these attorneys are playing, and they work hand in hand with these PR firms. So this is why, folks, is so very important, especially if you live in that area. If you have any kind of social media platform, I don't care if it's YouTube, I don't care if it's TikTok, I don't care if it's Instagram, I don't care what it is. It's going to be very important for you to document some of the things that you have been noticing and witnessing, and documenting that, making that the public record. This is where your power comes in. Because the more voices that are out here that are echoing these conversations like we're doing this evening, it's going to put more pressure on them to start doing things the right way. Okay. So that's why we're just one of, there's other platforms that have been talking about this, not as much as should be, but there's definitely a few others that are talking about this issue. But you do have a voice. Okay. You do have a voice. You don't have to be some expert YouTuber or TikToker or whatever. You ain't got to do all of that. You need to make your complaint a public record so that the more this gets out, the fire is going to be too much for them to put out. And then finally they're going to say, you know what? We're going to have to listen to these people because there's too much attention being put on this case. And we're going to have to do things right. And we're going to have to do things the right way because they are moving fast. And this is something we told you was going to happen. They're not wasting any time. They're moving very fast. And next thing you know, folks ain't going to have any recourse in a moment. All right. So, yeah, there's just we're at the tail end of this clip here. So let me just let him finish up. And then I think we're going to hear from this other lady here on the bottom left hand side. Just a few minutes of her. OK. All right. Let me go ahead and play that.
Otherwise, we want to let Scott go because 5 a.m. is early. I can't imagine you're excited about that.
Well,
and then I would like to ask Christina a question from there.
I have one last thing. I will be doing a lot of updates to the page and on Facebook. And why I'm leaving early tomorrow, my scientific team, which Christina, Jamie, Chrissy, and Zuza, and all the residents you see on those emails, we are releasing our summary report on our testing at the Society of Environmental Toxicology and Chemistry conference, which we were chosen to speak at. And why is that a big deal to Conyers? Because it looks like Conyers has at least 6 times the chlorine compounds that burned. And you'll see we're presenting that data. The presentation is in the morning on Wednesday, and I'm going to make that available. I'll be posting as much as I can to Facebook, and I want everybody to know in Conyers. That's why I had to come back early Saturday morning. Otherwise, I'd still be in Conyers, because the best thing I can do, this conference was pre-scheduled. This conference now is and the results in East Palestine are just as important to Conyers because now we have a template.
Okay. Well, I'm going to switch gears and ask Christina a question, and then I'd like to move to the reimbursement. But Scott, I've told you plenty of times, we're so grateful for all that you're doing for us here and all the testing that you're getting done. Oh, that would be, I guess, the question I have that I imagine others are going to have. I know you said, and it's been what? How long has it been since you started testing? How long do you think it'll be until we get those results?
It takes at least 3 to 4 weeks from when the lab gets them. So let's say, for example, I tested Thursday, I FedEx to the lab overnight, and they get it Friday. So it takes so we've got about anywhere between 3 weeks before I get that first round. And on that first round, we did get within 1,500 feet of ground zero and get water samples from the retention pond. So, and we got wind chill. So there's, and the soot and ash and I got a note from the lab today that the soot and I took extra samples on soot and ash, and the lab said the soot and ash was literally exploding in the microwave. That they use protocols, they have to come up with a different method. So something is in that soot and ash causing it to explode in the lab where they use all the certified protocols, which is interesting. That's
Wow.
interesting.
Well, it's horrifying, but yeah.
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 So,
Okay.
hi,
Okay.
Jamie and Christina.
Well, I'd be curious to hear from you, and then maybe we'll switch gears to reimbursement. But did you opt, like, if you're comfortable sharing, did you opt in or out, or where did you end up landing on that?
I ended up doing the third option, where I opted in, but I submitted objections. But I didn't opt into all the settlement. Like, we had the property and then we had the personal injury. So I still don't know if I will get property damage because I have a different situation than some people do. But the settlement center wasn't sure with how that would work. So I submitted the paperwork that I needed to, but I might not get anything. But then the personal injury I didn't take because to me, I don't know what's going to happen because there's not enough knowledge in the world about multiple chemical exposure. So I just felt safer I have a young child too, that I didn't feel like it was safe for us to take the settlement and give up our rights. The other part of it was, and I'm not sure if a lot of people were told this, but when I went to do the personal injury for my son, the settlement center wanted me to hold his hand to help him sign his name because he's 5, so he can't write his name. So I didn't feel comfortable with that. I thought that was strange, and I've never heard of a minor being able to sign for anything. So
No, don't your parents sign on their behalf or something like that?
So I didn't feel comfortable with that. And so we didn't take the personal injury. It was also, I live on the Pennsylvania side of our disaster. And so I'm about 6 miles from the derailment site. And so our amount was less than what it was in East Palestine. And I don't feel like what the people in town were offered was enough. And for the personal injury for us, it was like, I think $5,000 that they offered us. And I was sick like for 5.5 months, and I don't know what's going to happen later. And I've had other symptoms develop since the beginning too. So I just didn't feel comfortable taking that whole thing.
And you raise a good point because you are not in the Ohio portion, and while you're separated by a state, I think it's something that I've heard a fair bit. Like, this extended far out from, we talk Rockdale County, which is certainly, I'm in Rockdale County, but I want to be mindful of that too for a lot of people that have these questions of, for us, Loganville or Walton County and DeKalb County and all of our surrounding counties, Newton, that were exposed to this. From your experience there, would you say ultimately those that are not like within that, whatever, for here, maybe like 5-mile radius or in a neighboring county or what have you, do you feel like they kind of got the short end of the stick? I mean, everybody there got the short end of the stick, but like, do you feel like in particular that happened for you guys?
I do. I think overall it should have been more, but there's if there's things that happen in the future, there's also not ever going to be an amount of money that you can pay somebody dying. So,
Right.
I don't think that it was nearly enough.
Okay, so I'm just gonna cut it off there because I think I told you we are gonna play like 35 minutes or so of that video. But if you want to see it, it's in its entirety. You pretty much saw most of it. I'll put the Facebook page up on the screen again, and I would highly encourage you again if you are in the Atlanta metro area. I highly encourage you to sign up for this Facebook page so that you can, stay in the loop on all the stuff. As you can see, they're uploading all kind of papers and test results and things like that. And so this looks like definitely the place to be to at least stay in the loop, so that you can, be informed of what's going on. So if you caught this video from the middle, I would advise you to go to the beginning. There was some things we touched on there, but as you can see again that these powers that shouldn't be, they're moving very quickly to try to get this behind them. It's good to see that you do have county officials that are standing up and saying, hey, listen, we need a federal lawsuit. But again, how far is that really going to go at the end of the day? There are many things that you can do as a resident, as a citizen, as an individual to protect you and your family. One of the things that I'm very strong on is your drinking water. You want to make sure that you want to make sure that your water, now the county says, Rockdale County says that they're testing the water 3 times a day. That's what they're saying. And they're saying it's all coming back fine. But you want to see those results. You want to know exactly what they are testing for, because just because they're running tests, you need to know what they're testing for, because if you're running tests just for a couple of things that weren't involved in that biolab mess, then of course it's going to come back negative. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you want to get, if you're a resident, you need to get the results of that test. You want to know exactly what they're testing for. Otherwise, you're taking a risk if you're drinking it and if you're bathing in it. All right. You want to make sure that if you're, for your water, this is beyond just boiling your water. You're dealing with chemicals now. Okay. If you're drinking, all your drinking water until you can get some solid results that you know it's safe, you need to be drinking some bottled water that comes from somewhere way far from that county and from that town. So in other words, if they're saying we bottled this water in DeKalb, well, that ain't, or Fulton County, yeah, that ain't far enough for me. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? You need to be drinking some bottled water. All right. And that's just your water. And changing out all your filters. Filters, they can only do but so much. But if you have an air filter, one of those old air filters that you plug in, you want to make sure that, you're using those filters because usually those air filters, they have like charcoal in it. Charcoal filters with charcoal in it are very good because charcoal acts as a, a magnet, and it attracts dust. It attracts all these other particles or whatever that are floating in the air. It attracts that. So filters that have charcoal in it, those are very good. I don't know if they make them for like the house, for your HVAC system. I don't know if they make them for that, but that would sure be nice if they did. But, if you can get them for that, that would be great. I know it'd be a little more expensive, but, and anyway, you could check that out. But other than that, I don't want to keep you any longer. Like I said, I gave you, just simply using this platform to echo what people on the ground are actually saying and what they're actually doing. We're just saying, please, y'all, take this video, send it to anybody that that live in that area, and tell them to take this extremely serious. Just because you maybe stop coughing a little bit, just because you don't see the plume, it doesn't mean that you're out of the woods, because those are some very serious chemicals that are very deadly. And we need to take this extremely serious and stop assuming that the government loves and cares for you, because they sure enough don't. Okay. That's it. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to check this out. And we'll continue to stay on top of this. And as we get more information, we'll pass it on to you. All right. You take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.